Bad news for Republicans means good news for America. This just in. Illegal border crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border in May are down by more than 50%, according to U.S. Border Patrol police. And while most Americans would say, great, not these mopes. The Republican Party wants the Democrats to fail and the country as well.
They're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay. Please blame it on me.
A bipartisan bill would be good for America, and Congress needs to get it done.
Yeah. So what's wrong with Congress then, Congressman? I mean, why can't you actually move the needle on securing the border? I understand you need a willing partner on the other side, and you haven't had that. But it's frustrating to see all of these illegals coming in and the drugs flowing in, and really no movement.
The problem is the Republicans, not the Democrats. We know how the Democrats are going to vote. It's too many of my Republican colleagues are unwilling to vote to secure the border.
And yet all they can do is say how bad the border crisis is.
The facts and the data and the statistics do not lie. Secretary Mayorkas is willfully breaking federal immigration laws. That's what we're talking about today. This is not a policy debate. This is proof. You can't lie about the numbers.
That's Dairy Queen, who lies about the border incessantly, creating fake stats and false anecdotes to try and make her case. If I can, here's one of her lies. And you'll hear Trump repeat it in a few minutes. The Republicans in the House had a chance. They could have brought to the floor the Senate-backed partisan bill that would have tightened things up even more, ending catch and release and limiting border encounters to 5,000 a week. Now, Waffle House and Tiny Fingers both lied about what a border encounter really is. It's not just migrant families waiting across the Rio Grande. It's everything, including migrants requesting asylum, legitimately. But Trump lied and said the bill would allow 5,000 more undocumented migrants a week. By the way, if you're documenting them as they come in, it's by definition not undocumented. Now, the latest numbers show U.S. Border Patrol agents recorded a daily average of approximately 3,700 apprehensions of migrants between official ports of entry. That number represents a 54% decrease from the 8,000 daily average from last December, when illegal entry soared to 250,000, an all-time high. May is also on track to see the third consecutive month-over-month drop in unlawful border crossings. While still elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels, U.S. officials have partially attributed the lower-than-expected levels of unlawful crossings to an aggressive crackdown on U.S.-bound migrants by the Mexican government. That's right. Mexico's cooperating. You know, Donnie, maybe if you didn't call them rapists, if you weren't such a colossal prick, you'd have more friends.
Oh, we'll build a wall. Don't even think about it. We'll build a wall. Don't worry about it.
Build that wall! Build that wall! Build that wall!
And Mexico will pay for the wall.
And while Trump said that, Biden did this. He negotiated a deal with Mexico to crack down on the flow of migrants reaching the border. You might even say Biden mastered the art of the deal. You like that, Donnie?
But this election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over.
So when Trump forced Mike Johnson to kill the Senate border bill, it meant that there would be no new legislation for a year.
Why were you against the House, against the Senate border deal, the bipartisan border?
Well, they allow 5,000 people a week. Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
So Trump's response is predictable. He says, I'll just deport them all, 11 million of them, sending them home on planes and ships.
Speaker, lastly, the President of the United States, the former president who wants to be the next president, said one of his plans is, he talked to Time Magazine, is to round up the 11 to 15 million illegals and then go through them and find out who belongs here and who doesn't. Would you support that?
Absolutely, and President Trump and I have talked about this at length.
But how? Is that even possible?
In an interview this week with CNN's Dana Bash, Mr. Trump called for deporting all 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country and then letting what he called the good ones come back through an expedited process. What should be done about the 11 million or so that are already here?
Listen, first off, I've had 7 years in law enforcement as the U.S. attorney. There are not enough law enforcement officers, local, county, state, and federal combined, to forcibly deport 11 to 12 million people. I mean, and this is like building a 2,000-mile wall across the border that Mexico is going to pay for. It sounds really good. You pound your chest, but then the question is how? How are you going to do it?
What would deporting 11 million people look like? Or maybe a better question is, what would we look like?
What exactly would deporting 11.2 million people look like? That's roughly the populations of New York City, San Francisco, Boston, Seattle, and Detroit combined. Like other times the U.S. has forcibly removed people en masse, the U.S. would likely need to deploy the army The Army would have to run around the country, rounding people up, putting them in massive holding centers, and then shipping them on trains, buses, ships, and planes. The cost of all this, more than $500 billion. So if this isn't how you deport 11 million people, then what exactly do politicians have in mind?
Okay, here's what the Republicans say, and here's what's true.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime.
They're not bringing crime. Well, at least not compared to American citizens. And there's a lot of data on this. If you're attacked in America, the odds that it's an undocumented person doing it, it's about 1 in 10,000. Meaning that if you were mugged 10,000 times, 9,999 times, it would be John, not Juan. But there's a lot more. Undocumented don't qualify for social services in almost every red state, and they don't get Social Security. But they pay taxes, billions of dollars from sales taxes. Where I live, California, we offer social services like childcare and medical because these illegals work our farms for dimes on the dollar, and they've made California the 5th largest economy in the world. And oh yeah, America, you like lettuce, strawberries, milk, and bread? Thank these guys. Also, undocumented people stay married, where 50% of Republicans divorce. They identify as Christian, and they go to church on average 10 times more than Americans. And all the BS rhetoric about deporting them means that instead of finding a path to citizenship like Reagan wanted, we are willing to cripple our economy because Trump is a bigot. Now, everything I just said is true. So why aren't Republicans celebrating the fact that Biden, despite the Republican opposition, is seeing results at the border? Because everything they say is a lie, and everything he says is a con.
Donald Trump has an encyclopedic memory.
That an illegal alien, and you just...
Trump tries to frighten Americans with these dark characterizations of immigrants as murderers and thieves, but that's because he's a coward.
I don't know if you've heard this, but I came up with this one. Migrant crime. There's violent crime, there's migrant crime. We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's going to be worse than any other form of crime.
Remember Sally Buttermilk and her story after the State of the Union?
Innocent Americans are dying. The cartels put her on a mattress in a shoebox of a room, and they sent men through that door over and over again.
The event to which you referred occurred when Bush was president, and it didn't even happen in the U.S. Trump also characterizes migrants as lazy. I mean, look at this baboon and his 53-inch waist calling Mexicans lazy. MAGA has changed the way Republicans think about America. The people here who are working are keeping us great, keeping us fed, keeping our economy strong, and that keeps our nation safe. MAGA, on the other hand, wants to tear it all down because for so many of these mopes, it's unfair that a person of color has something they don't, even if they've worked 12 hours a day to achieve it. And unlike red state Republicans, they don't have their hands out. The irony here is undocumented Americans care more about our country than Republicans do because they put in the work.
Damn right. This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I'm Chip Franklin.